Now, Nigeria has a staggering 10.5 million out-of-school children, which is the highest rate in the world, according to the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. This means that 1 in every 5 out-of-school children in the world resides in Nigeria. Getting out-of-school children back into education poses a massive challenge, with factors like gender, poverty, insurgency, and displacement of people playing a critical role in the pattern of educational marginalization, especially in the northern part of the country. Now, despite government's restated commitment to improving access to and quality of education, the country still falls short of the recommended benchmark that countries spend 15 to 20% of their national budgets on education. So joining me in the studio is CEO and founder, IA Foundation, Ronke Adeagbo. She's back from the UK. It's good to see you home.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Nice to see you.
And congratulations on your coming award.
Thank you so much.
Really interesting.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Mike.
Now, we have discussed out-of-school children. I remember hosting you from the UK several times on this issue. And as it is, government, like in my report earlier, in my introduction earlier, government has made concerted effort. One of the issues that is very visible is the issue of our strategy, is the issue of school feeding program, which is meant to attract young people to school. But at the end, we still see these numbers up there, because we were thinking that, when that comes, the numbers of out-of-school children should go down, but it's still up there.
Yeah.
What do you make of this?
Absolutely. And it's the responsibility of someone like me, an education advocate, to always make sure out-of-school children issues is on the front burner. Because we're in political season now, and everybody seems to have forgotten these poor children, that we've still got 10.5 million children roaming the streets who are meant to be in school. So we are meant to actually remind the government that, hang on, these children are still there. Now, the government is trying their best in terms of the school feeding program. But I tell you, Mike, it's too little too late. You understand? We're talking about 10.5 million children.
That's a lot.
Right? Yes, you're giving them the food as the carrot, you're dangling in front of them. But then, before you know it, bandits are kidnapping children from school. As we speak, children are still in captivity. Dapchi girls are still there. Chibok girls are still there. The government is not doing anything to rescue them. So naturally, parents would not want to send their kids to school. And as you know, Nigeria has got a teeming population of young adults. Now, if we don't pay attention to this group of people, naturally, they will serve as feeders for bandits. Therefore, this security issue might actually metamorphosize in the nearest future. So if we know we want to tackle insecurity, right, we need to make sure these children are given the necessary skills to make sure they are gainfully employed in future, and they would not be attracted to become kidnappers or to banditry. So it's very important that the government prioritizes this group of children that are just roaming the streets and being a nuisance.
Yeah. All right. Now, the recommendation is that at least not less than about 15% to 20% of national budget should be dedicated to education, so that all of the mechanics, all of those things that make education, not just building classrooms and building halls and lecture halls, but all of the things that go into education, can be standardized. Now, Nigeria, from the reports we've heard from leaders, Nigeria is broke to some extent, to a great extent. How is that impacting on this generally? Because one would say, of course, we don't have the monies to give 15% to education.
Yeah, it's about priority. It is about what you choose to prioritize.
Okay.
And I remember Tony Blair in the UK used to say during his government, it was about education, education. Because that's the manpower you need. Because without education, you would not be here, I would not be here. So it's very important that we prioritize education. UNICEF has said spend at least 20% of your budget on. Nigeria is spending 7% on education. So are you surprised that we find ourselves in this situation? If you don't put your money where your mouth is, or you don't invest in the education of the next future, then you find yourself in this sort of issues. So my suggestion to the government is they need to find a way of making sure they increase the funding for education. There was an educational summit that was held 2 years ago in London, and our Prime Minister, our President was there.
Was there?
And that was an opportunity to raise funds. And they've got this bulk of money, about 4 billion, which was raised. And countries like Nigeria can actually tap into that money. My question is, have we tapped into that money? Are we actually going to other organizations like UNICEF and co to get money? You know, there are other creative ways in which you can get money to increase the budget for education. But if the government chooses to prioritize it, then that is the beginning, you know, to make sure we are doing the right thing. For me, it worries me and it keeps me awake at night. I mean, we've got 10.5 million children out of school. The undergraduates are not in school because ASU is on strike.
Yeah.
And all we have is those in charge of education are only interested in putting themselves forward to become the president. To me, this is the litmus test. If you want to become the president, what are you doing in your ministry at the moment? When we have lots of children out of school, how do you cope? It's just not acceptable. We need to prioritize these children's need.
Now, if we have to take that step, let's assume that government is ready to take the step right now and the move has to be made. What are the things we should be looking at as a way of bringing these children roaming the streets all over the place back to school? We also have to look at the peculiarity of some of them. They've never been to school. They've been out there. So I wonder what it's going to take to speak to those children, you know, to bring them to a classroom and then keep them in the classroom where they go every day, you know, and go back every day, you know, and so on.
Yeah, there are major issues responsible for this. One is mainly the north is insecurity, because of the insecurity, parents don't send their kids to school. Mainly in the south, sometimes it's poverty. Sometimes it's the cultural orientation, especially with the girl child, is that the girls are better off being at home, being trained, and not going to school. So we need to try and address a couple of things. We need to try and make sure we address the insecurity issues to give parents confidence that if their kids go to school, they would not be kidnapped. Something needs to be done about the Chibok girls. Something needs to be done about the Dapchi girls. We need to make sure the government reinforces the security infrastructure around schools to make sure schools are not vulnerable areas for kidnappers to go kidnap kids. So we assure parents that the children are safe when they're in school. That's one. Now, in terms of poverty, when I was growing up in Nigeria, I had free education. So what's happened to free education? My understanding is that primary and secondary school education is free. So if education is free, what is stopping children from going to school? The reality of it is that apart from free education, there are things you have to buy. You have to buy school shoes, you have to buy standards and things like that. Now, NGOs like IU Foundation are here to support parents. You know, if you haven't got funds around us, we are here, we've raised funds for the UK, we are here to support parents to make sure things like this they can buy and make sure their kids go to school. Also, the cultural orientation needs to be changed. Education is critical. Every parent needs to know that. If the government needs to legislate against it, send any parent or guardian that does not send their kids to school, then you have to face the law. Then maybe parents will take it seriously that their kids need to go to school. Because some parents prefer to send their kids up in the street to gain money for the family. No, we need to legislate. That is wrong. That child should be in school. Because the reality of it is, if you put that child in school, if that child gets good education, that child can turn the whole fortune of that family around. So it's penny wise,
and even the entire community.
Exactly, penny wise, pound foolish. Putting the kid on the street to Okna or putting them in school and then they turn around the whole family. So parents' orientation needs to change. We need to take parents along because some parents are thinking, you know what, it's my child, I can do whatever. No, it's not your child. You know, the government has a responsibility.
I like you made that point. In fact, the last 2 days we've been talking about this communal, because you made reference to how it used to be. The point there is we were all communal people, you know, and then the community takes care of you. In fact, someone who is your neighborhood who is not related to you, you misbehave, you can be spanked at the time, and then they will tell your parents and so on. But now we've become so individualistic. Everybody is just me, my family, and then whatever happens to the child is my business. It's none of your business. Stay away. How is that helping because when we talk about school, the school will take off from where the family stops. And for the wholesome learning, it starts from the family and then to the school, and then from the school to the society or any other place that it gets to. But how do we get back that family part of education first before you hand over the baton to schools?
The family is the smallest unit where the child starts developing. And we need to make sure we go back to basics, that families are actually conducting themselves in a way that children will think, hang on, this is good training for me as a person. You understand? Because some families, the way some parents behave, And you can know in the press recently, we've had some bad publicity about bad parenting. Because it is what the environment the child lives in will determine the kind of person the child is going to be. So my first suggestion is that parents, the moment you choose to be a parent, you need to be responsible. You need to conduct yourself responsibly. You need to be in a position to be able to make sure that child, you live by example, so that child sees what you're doing, learn from what you're doing, and become a better person themselves. Now, I get very worried because in this day and age, teachers are damned if they do, they are damned if they don't. Now, when children go to school and the teachers are trying to teach them correctly or trying to discipline them, you find parents ringing up the school or going to the school to say, how dare you do that to my child? So are you surprised that teachers feel powerless to be able to do anything? So I would suggest that the government needs to empower the teachers to actually tell parents, you know what, let the teachers do their job. That's what they are paid to do. Don't interfere with that process to make sure we can bring up a child properly. But it's a two-way street. It's a partnership between parents and the school to make sure we can bring up a child properly and to avoid the situation of the Dubai situation that we had recently. Really very embarrassing indeed.
A troubling one. All right, we have to leave you here now. Thank you so much, Ronke Adeagbo, for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for what you do.
Thank
it's
you.
Really amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.